Danil Nevsky. Thanks for joining
So,
us. Serves you right.
thank you.
So I wanted to start, and we could take this in a couple of ways, but one thing I see with a lot of bartenders I've known in the past, some that I know now, definitely saw it in myself. There is a tendency in this industry to kind of denigrate earnestness. You know, there's a like cooler than thou, like I'm not going to try hard at the job. If the job doesn't work out, I'm going to go to the next spot. And it's not everyone, and it's not every single bar, but I see it more often than not. And I just thought it was really inspiring to see someone like you who seems to have taken things so seriously and put themselves out there and have tried to work on their craft. And I thought we could start with just saying, like, what makes you different, you know?
I'm not sure how much of this is difference, how much it's. I've actually seen a whole documentary on this on YouTube, which was talking about generational differences, right? And there was this whole generation prior to 2020 where not giving a shit was the cool thing to do, right? Like, or looking like you don't give a shit. So I believe like the lack of showing that you care was both a generational trend as well as a defense mechanism. Because if you look like you really care, you're like a tryhard, and that's so cringe. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
And it's funny because it's the classic situation where 10 people go to a cocktail competition and they all go on stage, and if you're not even participating, like some people fuck it up or something happens, someone's nervous, whatever, they come off stage and they go, whatever, I didn't give a fuck anyway. Fuck that brand. Like that's a defense mechanism of them just feeling better, like if they look like they don't care. Which sometimes people really don't, because they might have been out drinking late the night before or whatever, they just screwed it up. But more often than not, we read through the bullshit, right? We can see that you do care. Like, stop pretending, right? And in my case, I don't think I'm any different. It's just so much more being someone who's from first generation immigrant family. Parents are from the Soviet Union times. They were born in the Soviet Union. So their whole thing was this classic, more, I would say, like kind of conservative old school mindset of you got to become a lawyer, you got to become a medic, you got to become an engineer, some STEM field, whatever. But a lot of that backed by this kind of propaganda of the Soviet Union is that if you work hard, workers' rights, you'll achieve something. You know what I mean? And so you have to give a shit about what you do. And maybe that's something I never grew out of, because that was the home rhetoric versus the rhetoric of growing up in the UK, where all my friends were like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, well, maybe I just chose one over the other. So I don't think it's like, I don't want to pretend that I'm like some kind of hero for just behaving differently. I think it was just very much often where nature versus nurture. And I guess I just picked the winning card for the generation. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think anyone who's I don't think anyone's successful who doesn't give a shit. There's very few people who build careers on actually not caring. Does that make sense?
A ton of sense. I like your framing of it being sort of a defense mechanism. I definitely can see that in the competitions. And sure, you're going to have one or two, especially if it's a competition in another city, or especially if it's like paid for by the work or the competition itself. So it's like, I'm here for the trip. I really don't care. Like, that guy, sure, go out drinking the night before. It makes sense that you don't do that well in the competition. It's a whole other thing to pour your heart and soul in it and let that be seen and then fail. Because that's a very vulnerable place. It's like, no, I wanted to win and I got third. That is the whole thing.
But if I can comment on that, sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
It's kind of like you are seen, right? The people, I think the natural evolution of anyone in the bartending career, because I don't know anything else, right, is that first you're just kind of getting into the job. You don't know what you're doing. Usually that's the first 5 years of your fucking career. You're just trying to figure shit out.
15 for me, yeah.
No, it's an ongoing thing, but really like not having any clue, I would say it's the first 5 years. You're just kind of a fish taken by the current. Wherever that current flows, you flow with that current, right? Until you start to figure things out a little bit, right? Then, I mean, let's just say you have some element of success, or you care, or you show, and you show up, and your career might get better in some way or form, right? And then there's always someone above who gives you a chance to step up, right? There's usually someone gives you an opportunity, some way or form. And the real hard thing, I think, much later down the line, is to be the person who gives other people opportunities. It's very easy to be in this position where you know you're good and you're doing well and opportunities are coming your way and you're taking them, but are you trickle-down economics style to anyone else? Does that make sense? And the real kind of people that stay in the industry longer, like career, like whole life, are the people who not only make opportunities for themselves for their own hard work, but the people who pass down opportunities to others, even when there might be also something they could do. You know what I mean? Like whether it's a brand gig or a resume, whatever, passing on resumes, getting people jobs, whatever it could be. It could be anything, right? And so I think that's kind of where it also comes to this caring, not caring. And when you care, another person who sees you are a person that cares, they're going to give you a gig rather than somebody who walks around arrogantly like they don't give a shit, right? A good example of this is one of America's currently most lauded bars, Schmuck, in New York City, with the owner, Mo. He became top 3 in legacy in San Francisco when he participated. He wasn't even number 1. I don't think anybody remembers number 1 from that year. I could be lying. I don't remember exactly, but he cared and the opportunity found him as a result. And he has found support as a result. Does that make sense?
That makes tons of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful thing, if you don't have that care, if you don't give back, the job can, even if you excel at it, very quickly become transactional and just kind of like gross. It's like, yeah, John's a good asshole. He's a good bartender, but he's kind of an asshole. I don't want to work with him. Like, he makes good drinks, but it's like, but yeah, you can't just take all the time. You do have to give back some, or else it starts to grate on you. It's not a human profession anymore.
I think in the US it's very difficult. I think one of the things I struggle the most with is understanding the US bartending community. And the reason for that is because one thing people forget is that your entire system is different from everywhere else in the world, right? Tips are the money, right? And so I recently was commenting on someone, there's a really cool, now sober dive bar bartender that I follow in the US called Matty Wrangle or something. I did one of his posts trying to be funny, and I got absolutely torn to pieces by other US bartenders who were all just other dive bar bartenders and stuff. Because he was saying, the post was, if there was no tips, I wouldn't be in the industry anymore. Like, I wouldn't be in service if there was no tip culture, if they changed. And I commented, like, welcome to the rest of the world. We do it for the love of the game.
Minus America.
I thought I was being kind of like in the spirit of being funny, because he's got an account which is more humor based. God damn, did I open Pandora's box of absolute shitstorm where it was, yeah, but you guys get this, and this. I'm like, guys, okay, I'm not trying to be political. I was just trying to be funny. I'm trying to explain myself. But maybe what you think we get is not necessarily true. It's not necessarily like it works the way you think it works. And that's where I think there's a big disconnect, where in the US I see a lot more bartenders behaving like they don't give a shit. Like, this doesn't matter as long as they're pulling tips. Or why should I get into management? Or why should I learn cocktails or do competitions? I make X amount in cash per week and it's great. So who gives a fuck? Like, why harder this? Why work in a cocktail bar where I'll get less tips when I can work in this high volume joint? So like I understand why. Maybe I would exactly be the same if I lived in that system, right? Because what is the goal? What is the point, right? So as a result, it kind of almost encourages that behavior of transactional behavior, right? I even remember we did an event last year for BCB in Williamsburg, and we tried to explain to the host venue that they were like, do the bartenders keep all the tips? I'm like, no, all our bartenders have been paid. These are all star tenders who've been given a fee for this. We're giving all the tips to the barbacks and everyone who's on shift, on top of meeting minimum spend, blah, 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 and opening on a day that you're not normally open, right? But they were like that. They were really nervous about this because they don't want these people coming in and taking money away from like the people that they were hiring for to bar back the shift. So before pre-shift, I stood there. I was like, all the tips we make tonight are going to you, the barbacks, you, the front door, everyone, because we've all been paid. I could never see a turnaround from unhappy looking faces to the smiliest people in the world, because they're not getting a payout of X amount. They're getting all the tips. And it was like, holy shit. I've never seen barbacks in any event in my life work so fast.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yes. You never saw me as a barback. I was really good, but yes. Yeah.
Available for star backing events for the future.
Yeah, I should probably get another career going. It's a hard one. It really is. It's difficult because I lived it. You know, like my entire time bartending, I've lived through tips. I've only bartended in America. And I'm in management now as my day job. And so I got off of getting tipped out about 10 years ago. And part of me understands the appeal. Part of me understands how nice it is to think that there's almost a one-to-one correspondence to how hard you work and how well you do with what you get paid. Like that, I like. There's also part of me that looks at it like getting off of it was difficult, almost like it was a drug. And I'm sure that it does operate in similar ways to like gambling, where like you do things, it's uncertain, and all of a sudden you get a payout. So it's like, that felt good. Do it again. So it's like, yeah, it's hard. And, you know, to change it would change a lot here, which doesn't mean it won't happen someday, but
no, I don't see it happening.
Really strongly about it, yeah.
No, I don't see it happening anytime soon without some huge, massive fucking... It's embedded in the culture, generationally, for more than 100 years. So there's no way that's going to happen anytime soon.
Sure.
I remember in 2016, December, I ran a pop-up in LA for 1 month, and that bar had a no-tip policy. It was incorporated, like the pricing already had enough for a good wage. And for me, I didn't give a shit. My job was just to run the pop-up for Cocktail Kingdom and stuff. And the bartenders were getting pretty good. They were happy. They were getting like solid. They were getting the average that they would if they were getting tipped out different month on month. But the guests didn't understand. The guests were getting pissy for the pricing. And we were like, and when we were telling them that we don't need a tip, they were getting angry because they were like, you don't appreciate my generosity. It was a very unusual situation.
Yeah. No, it's a rabbit hole, and I fear that we should stay clear unless we want to get...
Sorry, yeah, of course.
The responses you got.
Tipping is great.
Yes. Yes. America's great. Go USA.
No, but I'm not... Okay, just to... If we keep this bit in, there's not a criticism of a system. It is an analysis of how it changes people, right? How about this? I'll criticize Europe on the same subject, right? We have a similar amount of people who don't pretend they don't give a fuck, but the reasoning for them not to give a fuck is because everyone gets paid the same. If you're a bartender, 20 years old, 25 years old, 35, 45, your wage is probably exactly the same, unless you're like the senior bartender, you know, if they have a position available for a senior bartender, but then you have more responsibility. But I'm talking like stand-up. Yeah, if you're just a stand-up bartender, regardless of your sex, your age, the laws, you get the same flat price. And considering that is not that high comparatively, if you look at US bartender wages in the medium, how much they earn in society versus European bartender wages, why the fuck should I give a fuck, right? You know, because I'm getting the same amount as everybody else. So the result is the same, it's just the reason for it is different. Does that make sense? So
it makes tons of sense, yeah.
Right? So the same behaviors, same attitudes sometimes, just the reasoning for it is completely different.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, you know, since you argued against Europe, I'll argue against America with myself as an example. Having the ability to work those shifts where I could make an outsized amount of money and take off on the slower days led to me working less, which sounds good on the surface of it. But as a young person, I probably could have used a little more structure and a little more work. I probably should have been working Tuesday night and not going out drinking all night Monday and calling in on Tuesday. Like, I could have probably used a little more structure. A little lower pay would have probably incentivized me to be a little more consistent and take things at a more steady rate versus the like feast and famine that I got into the habit of in 21, 22, 23.
And here we are, you know, making a podcast. Midlife crisis.
Making a podcast about it, bemoaning my liver's wounds. But yeah. So we kind of jumped in at the beginning. I do want to backtrack a little. And for those of my audience who don't know you or don't know about your past, could we kind of track through where you came from and kind of how you got into the bar world?
Sure. So, I'm going to try and keep this as succinct as possible because... I have a really messy life journey with the booze world. Half Russian, half Ukrainian immigrant, UK, then Scotland, because my mom got a better job in the oil and gas industry, so we moved to Aberdeen. 15 years old, want to go take a girl to the cinema, ask for cash. That says, you're old enough to get a job, go get a job. I get a job in a 3-star hotel as a waiter for weddings, because that was the only thing you could get at 15. Like, there's a limited time hours. It was £4.10 an hour, which was the minimum wage for a 15-year-old at the time. And so I'm working 5 hours was enough to afford 2 cinema tickets and a large popcorn and some Coke. So that was the beginning. And then after that, it's classic, pubs, nightclubs at one point, running a nightclub, moving down to a place that had a mojito menu, 10 mojitos, mixology, to the owner saying, hey, do you want to do, I heard there's a competition, you want to take part? I'm like, whatever. Take part in a local comp, 23 competitions, losses later, I come third. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it was like, hey, you get a drink for free usually at a comp, because they'll be like, which is saving money. You got to hang out with other bartenders when you're 20, 21, 22. Europe, we can bartend earlier. And then sometimes you win shit. My first ever, I came third. I won a trip to Spain, to Barcelona, where I now live. So it was really that. It was like an opportunity to travel for free to places I could never really afford myself. That was the big thing. And then you got to meet people. And with travel and with competitions, you meet people, you network. Suddenly you get opportunities. Next thing you know, I'm opening a bar in Amsterdam at the age of 23 as part of the opening team, and that gets into the world's 50 best bars. And next thing you know, by 26, I'm the creative director, so to speak, if you got to give it a fancy-ass title, of this venue, doing my first seminars and guest shifts. So, it's really kind of a domino effect. And then that was 10 years ago. And then I quit that and then I became a co-owner of one of the world's first social media companies that was doing bartender stuff, Cocktails for You. Did that for until 2020, right? So that was 3.5 years. And at the same time, I was still doing seminars, still traveling a lot until COVID. And then COVID, I already sold my half. I hunkered down in Spain by this time. I had a wife by this time. I was now adulting. And the job I had lined up didn't come through after selling my half of the company. And I had nothing else because I had no support from the government, because I was a business owner. So I didn't have any payout. Nobody was there to pay me out. I just had this chunk of cash that I was sitting on, which essentially ran out by the end of our curfew, because our curfew was a year and a half. And I had a camera and I had a loud mouth. So I decided, why not piss off the entire bartending global community with my loud mouth? And that was the next 2 years. So I grew the Instagram from 8,000 to about 60 in 2 years. Thanks to that. And now here I am now in an office. This is an office. This is not my house. I have my own office now. I have a Rotavac. It's over there. I have a bar downstairs. We have a full studio. I actually haven't announced the space yet, so sneak peek.
Hey,
and we're
cool.
we're creating an educational platform for bartending. You know what I mean? No investors, all self-funded, all through the power of social media and traveling and seminars and events.
That's not too bad of a story for someone who wanted to go see a movie.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago.
Wanted to get laid. Well, not even getting laid. I just wanted to kiss a girl. I just wanted to get a little hold hand action.
Yeah,
at the age of 15.
I just wanted a car, and they were hiring at Smoking Joe's Bar and Grill, and I said, sure, why not? So yeah,
that's how it always
funny
happens.
How many people do that. Yeah. So one thing that really stood out from that, I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning, is the number of competitions you kind of quickly went over, but how many you just entered and didn't end up winning or placing. And so
23.
I'm sure
23. I counted at
23. Yeah.
I did a whole count one day.
What was it that got you to keep going? Was it that they were fun in and of themselves, and you got the chance to mingle and the free booze, or?
Well, I kept missing the first prize, which was sick. You get to go somewhere. The UK at the time was very lucky in that, because it's just a small place. The UK is tiny. Texas is the surface area of Texas is 80% of the surface area of Europe as a whole. So the US is a massive country. Whether it's from London to Aberdeen, Scotland, is a 1-hour flight, right? That's a tiny island. So for us, competitions are aplenty. You have lots of super, super small brand comps that you might win a bottle to big world-class events, right? But they're very, very frequent, and therefore you can cut your teeth quite fast. So I did 23 competitions in the span of like 18 months, maybe 24 months, because the first one I entered was community organized. We had a really good community at the time, and we had a quarterly event called Corpse and Cocktail, funded by a bar. There was just no real prize, and usually won a bottle of stuff. It was an opportunity to kind of show off, I guess, to show your skills. Specifically, my bar only sold mojitos. We were a mojito bar, so everybody thought we were lame as shit. So it was an opportunity to turn around. Well, yeah, man, you know. I remember the guy who ran that event came to the bar because he'd heard there was a semi-decent bartender there, and I was so proud. And he came to the bar, and he's dressed like the way bartenders used to dress in 2008, wearing a vest, a bow tie, and a white shirt, fucking that shit.
Mustache,
that
everything?
Yeah, that whole shit, Fucking little Peaky Blinders cap, all the shit we used to do. And sorry, I didn't ask if we can swear or not, so here we are.
I think that boat is sailed, but we're good.
But basically he came in and he was like, I'll have a Sazerac. And I'd never made one before, and I was like, we have a menu. And then he goes, oh, you don't know how to make a Sazerac? And I was like, dude, I've only ever made this menu. Or I know Long Island's, because I worked in a TGI Fridays knockoff before that. And he was like, okay, well, he told me what it was. I made it. I was like, that's not bad. He's like, cool. I saw everything I need to see. And I was like, kind of shitty comment? I don't know if that's a shitty comment. And then he left the flyer for the event. And I was like, all right, well, let's see what the fuck this is all about. And came over and, sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I'm a bit under the weather at the moment. But I went over to the event. They were doing pre-prohibition drinks, and I was like, this is great, never heard of any of these. Ordered everything off the menu with my staff. We drank, we were like, this is cool. And then entered every competition I could. And then I did all the mistakes that anyone could make. Forgot an ingredient, check. Dropped shaker, check. Broken glassware because you did it wrong, check.
Sure, yeah.
Mishandling the glass, the shakes, right? So I think the first 10 was Dan, can you at least present without fucking it up? That was the goal. It would be
without
nice
harming
to
someone, yes.
Can I go on stage and I can physically present the drink on time? And then it was speech, because I was forgetting my lines, because you have to choreograph or usually do a story. Then it was 5 or 6 comps of that. And then I did I don't know if you've heard of, there's a bartender called Ian McPherson from Panda and Sons in Scotland. He just won a bunch of stuff in Spirited Awards.
That thing does sound familiar. Yeah.
So he was the guy to beat at the time. We were both bartending in different cities, but both in Scotland. And so I remember losing to him for Bacardi Legacy, and I was like, I'm gonna beat this guy. This guy's he's good. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna beat him. And then I entered every comp I could. I'd never beaten him in my life. And then I came third, and he was judging.
It's a different way to beat him. Yes. Yeah.
But it was funny.
That's awesome.
It was a funny thing that happened. But I think the thing that drives you, it will always change. There's no one definitive way. The motivations will change. For me, it was more about myself. Can I go on stage and deliver something where I know that I've done everything that I could to the best of my ability? So if I lose, I've lost the best that I could be. I can't blame the brand. I can't blame anyone else. I'm finally delivered everything choreographically and whatever correctly. Mm-hmm. And the last comp I ever did, I did that. I came second. And I got off stage and I was like, there was nothing I could have done better. I feel like I did the best that I could, and I came second, and I'm okay with that. High five to the guy who won.
Yeah. When I started, because I took a little while to enter competition because I was nervous about it. And the first one I entered, I always like to tell bartenders that I encourage to do anything. I got dead last. And not only that wasn't a mistake, I deserved it. And I'll leave it, I had an idea for a garnish that I didn't test enough, and what I thought would look cool was just terrible. And it was a toasted banana piece, but I didn't get a firm banana the day of, and so it just turned into gloop. It looked like I'd spat into the drink. It was horrible. Don Q. It was a rum competition, and
we've all been there, man.
Yeah, but it was very helpful to do it and fail completely, and then know that I tried, I cared, I failed, and I'm still okay. And that's when I started entering more competitions, because it's the worst case scenario happened, And it turned out to not be as bad as I even thought it would be. Just I learned something. And again, I got some Don Q. Like I got to hang out with some cool people and sure. Yeah.
You didn't have to pay for the night out.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Well, at least it was significantly cheaper than if you had to drink all of the same amount of alcohol with your own money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I don't know. I think competitions are great. I think people, even like today, I was speaking to a bartender. I answer about 50 to 100 DMs a day usually. And I was speaking to a bartender, and the bartender was saying, nowadays people using AI for their descriptions when they enter comps. And I'm like, who gives a shit? Why do you care about these pointless things? Focus on yourself, I think competitions are played out. I get more interaction online. I'm like, if you want to go down that path, go down that path. But so why do you care? Focus on online, It's this weird thing where people care about things that really don't affect their lives, but make it 100% of their personality. It's like, ugh.
All right, sorry to interrupt. We will be right back with Danil and Andrew. I just wanted to take a moment and say, if you have not had a chance to rate the show, please do. It means the world to me, and every rating helps us find more people who are interesting and do cool things, and it makes me happy. So why wouldn't you do it? For that one comment about the AI and the written descriptions, so about a month ago, I had Kim Hasserud on, and she's the old USBG president from America. And she would say, she judges a lot of competitions, and more she's saying, if you don't give care to it and you just threw it in an AI, you can usually tell. It's usually pretty spottable. For that person who's focusing on that person, just maybe work on your descriptions and you'll have an easier time beating them. It's actually, instead of being a problem, it's probably this is your opportunity. They're being lazy, work hard, and you can just crush them, honestly.
Be a salmon, swim upstream, man. Just swim the other way. It's the best advice I can give. If everybody, it even goes down to what wellness and work-life balance. I get it. We all need it. Everyone has their own version of work-life balance. You do you. But if everyone works 40 hours a week, the person who works 42 is going to look better than everyone else. Does it make sense? I'm not saying those 2 hours necessarily effective or better. I'm just saying if you live in a capitalist society, which we all do, you got to do something to make your product stand out from everyone else. And it has to make sense on the market, right? As simple as that. And usually going like a salmon upstream is the best piece of advice I can give. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, there's a different aspect to it of know what game you're playing. And that's the first thing I thought when you talked about that 40 to 42 hour difference. There is someone who's out there who's trying to optimize for family time. And for them, 30 hours is infinitely better than 40 because they get the 10 extra hours with the kid, where there's someone out there who's optimizing for future promotion and money. And for them, 42 makes more sense than 40. And both are right. Both are right because they're playing different games. And so don't compare yourself and the game you're playing with the game that the person down the street is, because you don't want to win their game. Yeah,
exactly. Your goals and goalposts are different. It's one of these things where I think the thing that the person who I argue the least with, but I also completely listen the least to, is the person who pretends they don't give a fuck. Right? That's who we started this conversation with. People who are not earnest, who pretend they don't care, but then complains about people who care more and want to work harder than everyone else, right? When I listen to someone like this complain, I'm like, I turn into that monkey that plays the two massive toys in its hand in my head. I'm like, because there's no point arguing against this person. Yeah, let them say their truth, move on. I got better things to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because if you don't care, and you truly don't care, you're not just trying to hide something, then you already won. There's no need to complain. You just don't care. Just go hang out on a beach and, live the vagabond lifestyle.
Absolutely.
You won. Yeah. I do want to make sure we address it because it is a big thing these days, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. If you are a bartender in today's day and age, where does social media fit into that? And I know you've done so much on that side. How should I think about that if I'm just getting into bar, maybe starting my career?
Sure. I would. Here's my 5 overall easy enough to digestible tips. Number 1, your social media, your Instagram, more so than TikTok than anything else, is the new resume, right? Everyone knows the LinkedIn game. You're all, Head of waste disposal, you're a janitor. Shut the fuck up. So or you look beautiful on the resume, but then they'll check your Instagram and you still got your handle from when you were doing Call of Duty at the age of 12, and you're like fucking some dumbass handle, right?
Monkey Spirit 47 or some shit like that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You know, Teabag 99, you know, whatever. Something dumb. So your Instagram is now your resume. Your resume has to reflect who you are as a person, but realistically, especially if you're thinking for brand ambassador jobs or more corporate gigs or management, it has to kind of reflect a little bit that. You can't be looking passed out in your Instagram photos, you know, at Bourbon Street covered in Jaeger, right?
Or at the bare minimum, not in every single one. For the love of God, at least clean it up a little bit. You know?
I've cleaned it up. I've 100% cleaned it up, you know? At the same time, it has to be human, right? Because we all know when something is performative bullshit. So, first of all, your social media, your Instagram is your resume. Secondly, if you want to post content and treat it as a job, which increasingly any front-facing jobs such as entertainment, any form of entertainment, any form of jobs where you are essentially providing services to the public that they can buy, aka bartending, singing, comedians, hosting, whatever, Instagram is work. It's much, much less family. So protect your family, treat it as work, and that's the second thing. Third thing, if you're going to use it for work and you're going to post, the rules of 3 E's: entertainment, education, and emotion. You're either going to post something that's entertaining, post something that's educational about your job to usually people who are either in your niche or people who want to look inside your niche who might find you, and emotional. That's why whenever you post like your birthday something or keys to a new car, you get lots of likes, like exponentially, but then you post your fucking flat white the next day and nobody comments. Because nobody cares about your flat white, but they do want to emotionally connect with you about getting a new job, you know, like that. So emotion, education, entertainment. Those are the 3 E's that will always work. And cool, that's 1, 2, 3. 4, if you're a bartender and you say you follow the 3 E's, you're kind of entertaining, you're kind of funny, you work in a particular place and you end up blowing up in your immediate area, because essentially everyone who follows you at the beginning is people you know nearby. They're friends and family, and more so. So
the people you're actually giving real life value to, not just social media value. Yeah.
It's not someone on the other side of the world. It's probably somebody within your village, so to speak, right? So imagine you get 5,000 people who are from your village, right? That's 5,000 people who are potential customers that come and see you when you're working on shift. So now you can create a direct correlation between potential revenue to the bar by having a social media and being on shift. When you're not working, do these people come in? No. So they come in for you. So you are an asset that's worth more than someone who doesn't have social media. Does that make sense?
Makes tons of sense.
Right? And then that's 4. And then 5, that's where you can leverage, because then there's a lot of, and America is a wonderful country of entrepreneurship. Tons of local distillates, tons of local culture, tons of local breweries, everything, right? Ingredients, whatever you want. You know, there's no reason why you, if you're not in New York, can't be working with local producers. The state, you know, the state has money in agriculture to promote products. Who's better to promote their local regional products to? Someone living in New York or someone living from your state who can connect with the locals, who can actually get the stuff? So it's the only job where social media can really be leveraged correctly, because you can become a direct connection with consumers who can actually come and see you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes tons of sense. Yeah. And, you know, I like thinking of Instagram as your resume. I think that is a good reframe. Because, like, you know, really, there's not a lot of distillate in Omaha. Not a lot that have come across my path that are, like, truly inspiring. But it is a big, like, microbrew culture. Really big. And, like, if you're a bartender who loves microbrews, you talk about it all the day, like, you put it on your Instagram, you get people at the bar into it, like, there is a local brewery out there that's looking to sell more, and, like, why wouldn't you connect with them, get a part-time gig, go and sell their product? Like, it's like a job you could never apply for, but is a dream job, and, like, there's one way to do it, and it's serendipity and having that surface area of luck where you could have that opportunity.
Especially if you like beer. Like if you're kind of into your beer, and most bartenders are into flavor. Like you can't really be a bartender who doesn't like the flavor of alcohol or different alcohols, right? It doesn't make sense. So you like beer, cool. And the thing with it, if you're being authentic, if you're not just a shill, you become an authentic voice for the stuff. There's no reason you can't visit the brewery, right? They'll bring you out to visit the brewery. There's these online calculators that exist that can calculate how much your Instagram is worth, even if it's just 1,000 followers, right? But they can go, oh, cool, your 1,000 followers are from this city, which is 15 miles away from the brewery. So all of your followers are direct potential consumers, and you don't seem to bullshit. You're kind of authentic. People like you for it. Boom, there you go, right? Not everything has to be hashtag paid ad, right? It could be a different kind of relationship, and then things will just go from there. And then the only difference then is kind of what we were speaking about earlier. Are you just an executionist? Or are you an entrepreneur, right? Are you just going to then just do reviews, get your products, get your money? Or do you want to build something more from that? But then you're kind of stepping into a whole new world, kind of outside being a bartender, which is a craft in execution. Are you going to start your own place, which is quite expensive? That's the hard gap to gauge, right? Or are you just going to do events? Or are you going to do stuff for the community, for the mainstream? That's when it gets confusing and difficult and scary, and you get putting your neck out there, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I do like the framing, and it's one of the things that I tell myself to comfort myself, that life is just all problems. Like if you don't put yourself out there, you don't work hard, you're going to have the problem of not having money, not having a job. Whereas if you put yourself out there and you are authentic and you say what you feel and you try to share value online, you may end up with the problem of, should I start my own place, or should I go and start a catering or bring things to people, be a brand ambassador? It's always going to be problems, but there are much better problems to have. Like if I've got to choose one set of problems, I would choose am I going to be an entrepreneur or not, versus do I have a job or not?
Yeah, for sure. There's a comedian called Jimmy Carr. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a British comedian, but he had this amazing thing that he said, which is problems are not bugs in the system of life. They're built in. They're going to happen, right? You just need to learn to deal with them. And there's no such thing as you can do something and all your problems are gone. They're always going to be there. But like you mentioned, it's a choice which problems you want to have. And I'd rather have first world problems and privileged problems than thinking about how the fuck am I going to pay my rent next month. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was an old account I followed when I was a kid, and I think about this once a month. But it was joke tweets from a privileged white lady. There's one that I will always remember is, this salad is really intimidating. It's that's a problem I want. I don't know why or how that one tweet got lodged in my head for the rest of the time, but it lives there rent free. And so
the worst thing is I heard you say that, and I remembered a salad that I sat and looked at, and I was like, this is a very intimidating salad.
I come to America, go to the Cheesecake Factory, and some of those salads are 5,000 calories. It's very hard to be skinny in America.
I'm scared of stepping into Cheesecake Factory. I swear to God. That thing is so epic and big and so much that it's on my list. Every time I go to the US, I try and knock off some sort of chain restaurant off my list.
Chili's, check.
Yeah. I've done Chili's. I've done most of them, I think, now. I do need to go to it's not a chain restaurant, but it's a thing you have to do. I got to go to a Buc-ee's, the stop, the drive.
Yeah.
I got to do that. I got to do Cheesecake Factory. Haven't done that yet. I've done Olive Garden. I've done Panera Bread. I like it. I enjoy it. But I think I've left the final boss, that is Cheesecake Factory, towards the end of my journey. I'm very excited.
Everything you've heard about it is true and more. So, one thing I did want to ask you about, because I've asked a lot of people, it's something I find fascinating. Did you go through a specific intentional process to learn how to taste and how to kind of deconstruct and make cocktails? Was it haphazard? What was your journey when it came to that? Because I know it's an area that a lot of people struggle with and feel insecure about.
What do you mean by insecure? This is an interesting conversation.
So I know, and I can point to myself. When I started, I did not have the courage of my convictions, and what I was smelling was like something I could depend on. Like, I wasn't sure if the drink I made was good. Maybe I just liked it. Maybe someone else did. When I try wines, I think I get XYZ fruit, but I don't know for sure. I'm always looking for sort of an expert to be like, your drink was good. Or, yes, this Chianti
like
has a little bit of tomato.
Validation.
Yes, because it's this whole ambiguous world of taste that you've never really been trained in, till all of a sudden it's like your whole job.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. It's kind of hard to remember what you were like properly when you were younger. We all have like nostalgic positivity about our personal younger selves, right? Unless something specific happened. In my case, I think a lot of it came down to, I think the beginning of a journey is always, there has to be a place you go work, and then they just tell you, here's the recipe, stick to this recipe. And then you make it, and then you start tweaking the recipe a little bit here and there for a regular that you know, because you might find your own preference for it. So the way I see it, there's this learning triangle, like a pyramid of learning. The first one is beginner, and the beginner stage is just execute what we've told you to execute, right? Then the next one is like kind of like how to execute better or strategy. So you go like, oh, this actually, why do we shake the daiquiri this much or stir this long? How does this actually work? Oh, it works because of this. So you're not just executing, you're asking questions about how this thing is made. Why shake? Why blend? Why stir? Why this? Why that? You know what I mean? You start asking questions. And then the tip of that knowledge kind of hierarchy is when you get to a point where you go, I personally prefer it this way. So preference comes, your own personal preference is the end of that pyramid, right? Execution, like zero questions asked, just do it. Why are we doing it this way? This is why we do it this way. This rum is sweeter, therefore lower the sugar syrup because it's Zacapa, because it's got sugar in it, This rum is dry. You know what I mean? So the whys, the questions start coming, and finally your own personal preference. And when you learn your own personal preference, you actually become even better because, for example, I like things sweeter. I don't know why. I have a sweeter palate. So very often, if I'm in a place around the world which has a drier palate, such as Paris, or London, they are much drier palates. Japan tends to be either one or the other, weirdly enough. But if I'm making a drink and I'm like, why would I add more sugar to this? Normally, it's pretty close to balanced because I just prefer sugar. So it's learning your own flavor palette. And there's different ways you can do this because your body regenerates every single cell once every 7 years. So technically, you're a whole new human being every 7 years. There's a studies trying to look into why your taste changes. Usually this is kind of related. So the trick I tend to teach bartenders would be take a sours mix, whether it's fresh lemon or lime, or preferably fresh lemon or lime, not powdered. But then you take, let's just say you take fresh lime juice and you take 1-to-1 sugar syrup and you mix them 1-to-1, right, at room temp. And then you give it to bartenders, but you lie to them and you tell them that you didn't measure this, so it's completely off. And you ask them to taste it and to add lime or sugar syrup to balance it the way they prefer it. And so what they end up doing, some people might not change anything. Some people might add some more sugar. Some people might add some lime. And then you reveal to them, actually, I was bullshitting you the entire time. This was 1-to-1. What did you do to make it taste different? And so then you teach them about their own current sweet and sour preference, right? It's a really good way of people to discover themselves and their own personal sweet and sour balance. But there's this whole thing is an infinite hurricane of bias, right? Flavor is biased. Flavor is personal. So whilst there is general trends, how some people prefer some even cultures, some ethnicities, some where you are in the world, the temperature of where you are, the climate can affect all these different things of how you taste or prefer. There is, of course, trends and stereotypes and cliches, and they exist for a reason. But at the end of the day, it's all just personal bias. Like, you didn't know what strawberry tastes like until somebody gave you a strawberry and said, that's a strawberry. Because you didn't make up a name for it. If you really want to get geeky, if anyone's listening to this who wants to get super geeky about taste and flavor, first of all, I'm gonna play with you, Andy. Let's see if we can play this work on you. Describe the flavor of mango.
See, this is always the problem, because when you try to describe any fruit, citrus, tropical, it's always like, well, there's a little bit of sugar and there's a little bit of acidity and then it has mango flavor. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
without
saying
that one thing.
Without saying mango. Yeah. So just do it. Describe the flavor of mango without using mango.
That is the problem. It's like I would have to use other approximations. It's like pineapple-ish, you know, like
cool.
Yes, there's also like if you had a pineapple and maybe like a papaya guava baby, you know, like so maybe that would approximate it, you know, like yeah.
But earlier on you said it's kind of sweet, kind of sour, citrus, and you said tropical. Right, those are the three you used right at the beginning. Now describe the flavor of pineapple.
Exactly, it's kind of sweet, and it's got some acidity, and
it's kind of tropical.
It's kind of tropical, yes, yeah.
So this is a test I saw at a seminar with a perfumer, whatever, a perfume person who makes perfume.
He who perfumes, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So this was a really cool seminar I was at, and they were trying to explain that in the perfume world, in the aroma world, they separate taste and flavor. And this was the test. They were like, describe mango without using any names of other fruits or mango. People said sweet, citrus, tropical. Now do pineapple, sweet, citrus, tropical. And they were like, but those are entirely different flavors. They were like, yes. So it turns out in the world of aroma, they've actually developed their own language. So a French perfumer and a Brazilian that don't speak French or Brazilian can use the same language to describe the flavor of aromas. So when you learn their language, and there are 12 different families of how they describe stuff, they can describe anything in the world using that language, and another perfumer on the other side of the world will understand exactly what the fuck they're talking about. So this is a really interesting science, not science, but I guess kind of a science that people study. And I love it because during the seminar, they broke down Jameson Black Barrel whiskey, and they gave us 12 flavor pairings with Jameson Black Barrel, 12 that were adjacent to the flavor, and 12 that were contrasting to the flavor. And they explained that both work. So we had 24 pairings in total of 24 different aromas that were linked to either a fruit or a botanical or a vegetable. And we tried them all, and we sat there and we were like, well, the way I make cocktails can fucking fuck off. Because they just absolutely smashed it. You know, can I rent this guy for consultancies? It was crazy, but it was that's like a whole different place. And for me, I think it's your palate is a never-ending library that you need to refresh all the time. Memory fades, right? So that's why you need to try spirits all the time, you need to try liqueurs all the time, you need to try different flavors all the time. Fruits, vegetables, botanicals vary around the world, and then you figure it out for yourself. At the same time, this is going to sound really weird, you probably know when you've made a shit drink. Like when you get to the global level, the star tender level, generally speaking, most judges at competitions agree when a drink is good or bad, and we can all identify where the issue with the drink is, right? So there is a general understanding of what a balanced or good drink is. I can taste a drink where I don't like maybe one of the ingredients as a personal bias, but I can tell you if that drink is balanced, even though balance by definition of flavor is bullshit.
Yeah. No,
does that make sense?
I hate grapefruit, but I understand grapefruit drinks that are good. Yeah, like 100%. Yeah. It works in this
drink. Fantastic. Great. I don't have to drink it. Great. But that's a journey that requires intent. Like you need to care. You need to care about making good drinks. Does that make sense?
That makes a ton of
and I think that's a universal value. You need to fucking care.
Yeah. So I want to kind of take what you said and apply it to the wine world, because I have been a little more wine heavy in the last 10 years of my life. I kind of went the somm route from the bar. And Tim Gazer, Master Somm, he has this whole talk, and I think it fit in perfectly with what you were saying about how every culture, it's all kind of myopic. Everyone has their own idea of taste, flavor, and we're all just kind of talking from our own starting point. He went and gave a seminar in China, and one of the big kind of tenets of pairing, especially in America and European countries, is often like paying very close attention to tannin, because tannins will, make or break a lot of different pairings. And he said he had to throw all of that out the window because they have such a strong culture of drinking so much really strongly brewed black tea that their sensitivity to tannin is like done. And he was like, pairings that I never would have recommended, people were saying, this is great. And it's just like, there's kind of a cultural insensitivity to what we are sensitive to, the tannin. It's like,
for sure,
it's really cool to see that in like a whole cultural like scenario. It's like,
well, here's another one that's super interesting that's in the same vein. Do you smoke?
I used to.
Right.
Yes.
So nowadays, if you go into, say, a room where people are smoking, it might be a bit too much for you.
Oh, no, I quit for my health, not because I didn't like it. And I still love the smell of smoke. And
Sure,
I can always tell if someone's a smoker instantaneously.
But have you been in a bar where everyone is smoking in a while?
No, it is illegal to smoke inside in most of America. So, yeah.
So Berlin, Germany, many bars you can smoke inside. Greece, illegal, but nobody cares. Serbia, Japan, in some places. I just recently did a visit there. I was having this conversation with someone about how the old Savoy cocktail book, the specs are completely whack. And we're all like agreeing that they're super unbalanced. But then somebody threw out, yeah, but everybody was smoking indoors. Everybody was smoking everywhere all the time. So if you go to any bar, and I remember sitting, it was in Serbia, we're in this bar where they make only classic drinks, prohibition drinks. And they were like, yeah, this is exactly how they used to make this fucking, some hanky-panky at the Savoy cocktail book. And I was like, oh, this is gonna suck. But then they made it, but everyone in the room is smoking. And I haven't been into a bar where everyone's smoking in like years. I'm sitting there and I tried. I'm like, oh, this is pretty punchy, but because it cuts through. You can't smell anything. Your aroma is dog shit. It's just smoke. So the drinks are hyper unbalanced and hyper weirdly aroma. Like the flavor and aromas are out of whack because they need to cut through that like absolute block of your organoleptic. I forget words. Your nose.
Well, when you're in a smoke-filled bar, you need that Fernet in the hanky-panky to really come through, because otherwise you're not going to taste anything except smoke,
Exactly. Or I went to India, and they're making these like homemade cardamom and whatever infusions, and this stuff is so over-infused, so intensely, overly spiced. And I'm like, you don't want to be rude, because they're like super proud of this drink, and I'm like, this is undrinkable for me. But they eat so much spices in their food, like in terms of, not saying chili spice picante, I'm talking like just the amount of spices in all their food. So they're less sensitive to it than I am as a European, I guess, right? So for me, this drink is way out of whack in terms of the amount of spice they've used in it. But for them, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it's...
Yeah, it makes total sense. And, the other example that I always pull out when I'm training different servers and just talking about this general kind of theme is nutmeg. Nutmeg, depending on what culture you grew up in, can code either for desserts and sweets or kind of savory. And it just kind of depends on what you've had in the past and you experience it. And if you've grown up with it in savory like preparations and you get a dessert with it, it's kind of like, okay. The same way we would probably feel a little weird about black pepper if we had it in like a ice cream or something.
Yeah,
although
for sure.
It probably could work, like
of course. Man.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this is globalization versus I guess you get like adaptation to cultures and stuff and coding, like you mentioned. I don't think there's a right way, but there's also not a wrong way. Does that make sense? Because sometimes conversations come into like, oh, well, this is the way you do it, but this is the way I do it. I'm not saying it's better. At the end, the population and the guests decide. They react to what they react to. Their changing palates will dictate what drinks do well and what don't. Very rarely can a bartender help push that along.
And you never know what people are going to find, like the things that are going to take off. I was going to say, I think that travel really would kind of give you that perspective. And I was hoping that I could ask about your period of travel, because I know you went on a stint throughout the world, throughout the world for real. Yeah.
Yeah. It was 18 months on the road. Full time. I was originally, the idea was 12 months, 12 countries, 12 bars, but it became 11 months, 11 countries, 11 bars because my appendix blew out on a plane as I landed, and I had to miss going to Australia because I almost died. Lol. Who even says that out loud anymore? I did the whole world. I did South Africa, Lebanon, UAE, USA twice. I was in Norway, Kazakhstan. I did a pretty solid. The only place I didn't really properly go was anywhere in Asia, and I was meant to be going to Australia. But the limitations was all the money I saved working 70, 80-hour weeks for 4 years and the contacts you have. It was not sponsored by anyone. It was all just a midlife crisis at the age of 26 or something. I don't know what to call it.
You're advanced. You got had it early.
Yeah, early reader, early no, that sounds weird. Early, whatever they call kids that grow up too quick.
Oh yeah, like a Wunderkind or something. Yeah,
something like that. But for me, travel is amazing, but I find it amazing for other reasons. It was not so much palate, so much it's the two major things that happened to me was I realized that a lot of the limitations we place upon ourselves are bullshit. Like, especially if you have a good passport, like I have a British passport now. If you have an American passport, a Canadian passport, any of the strong, like Western European country passports, you can go most places around the world super duper hassle free. And that freedom is, you will not realize how amazing it is until you can do that, right? And the only reason I know how amazing it is because half my family is Russian and Ukrainian, and they can't do that. So I have a reference point. I have a comparative reference point. Well, and the world is actually amazing, but also that freedom comes with the understanding of like, it's not as scary as you think it is, but it also is not as safe as you might imagine it to be. So it's just a way for you to really kind of realize that a lot of the stuff you see online or read on Wikipedia or see on television, it's not necessarily the same as what you think it is. So it's very freeing your mind kind of perspective. But that only works if you choose to properly look and listen and talk to people. And I'm very privileged that I work in hospitality. So when you work in a place for a month, you speak to hospitality, you are more open-minded than, say, being a tourist that just gets to go to a museum. You know, I'm directly working with locals, and so it's a slightly different experience. But the first one is freedom. And the second thing is it's found out the things that I don't like. Right? It's hard to find what you do like, but it's easy to find what you don't like. But it's equally as important to know what you don't like. Does that make sense?
I'd even argue in some senses it's more important because it's harder to land on the things that truly you love and like inspire you. But a lot of that, I think, is honestly just avoiding the things you hate. Like, there's some people who just don't know. You know, it's like kind of wandering through life. Just
you don't know until you try. You don't know until you try. So for me, it was just finding out that there's some cultures that are not for me, or some foods that are not for me, or some ways of working or mindsets that are not for me. And I would have never maybe really understood them or met that had I not done the travel, right? So, and then there's some things I really end up, you know, being inspired by at the same time. So I think those are the two main things. And I think if I hadn't, that trip was the most significant career maker that I've made, because the first 5 months of that trip was friends, like couch surfing essentially, and working for free. But then people start calling you going, hey, are you that idiot that works for free? I'm like, yeah, that's me. And then you're getting invited to go help open a bar in Johannesburg in South Africa, right? Sick. Why not? Like, I was part of an opening team and helped launch a bar. Didn't have to do anything except just help out, but it was a cool experience. Like, who else has launched a bar in a different country around the world, just even as a help, you know? Or worked the Four Seasons in Dubai in their like resort, which I'm definitely not a hotel guy. I learned that I'm definitely not a hotel guy. I 100%
It's a whole different game, yeah, for sure.
You know, but I would to go into that and learn that world would take 10 years to learn that I don't like it. I learned it in a month. You know, like cool. Don't need to do hotels.
Well, that's super cool. And I think there are a lot of people listening. If you're starting, you can kind of recreate what you did without going like whole hog. You know, like there are littler experiments you can do. If you're growing up in rural Alabama, just like maybe move to like New Orleans for a little while. See if you like it. You might like that bar culture.
Well, let's take the U.S. In the U.S., essentially, it's kind of easier because we have all these really difficult contract laws in Europe, right? You can't do anything without getting an ID registered and a place and a this and that. It's a pain in the ass. All my travels were illegal. Like, I was ready to run out of the back, and You can't do that unless your friend is the owner of the bar, right? Dubai is different because their country just always looks for specialists, because I was like an intern or some shit, but you can't work at the Four Seasons without papers. All my shit was illegal. So, but in the US, it's kind of easier because you have a federal system, right? You have a green card. You don't need a green card. You have a national ID. You're a citizen. What stops you contacting the top 50 best bars of New York and going, hey, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna work for free just for the experience for 1 month, right? And how much does it cost to rent a place for just 1 month? Your job is to get experience. Your job is not so, okay, that's maybe like, let's just say a studio will be like 2-3K out in Bushwick, right? A shitty fucking studio, but you're not there to live. You're there to experience that 1 month thing. Cool, you save up 3K, you pay for that, maybe to live there. They'll feed you, they'll look after you. They'll easily take free labor. Why wouldn't they, right? And also you're showing more interest. Everyone's struggling for good staff. You're going to show grit. You're going to show determination. Next thing you know, they're offering you a proper job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even if it doesn't materialize, if you say went there from Kansas City, worst case scenario, you go back and then you can tell everyone, I worked at one of the top 50 bars in New York.
Yeah.
You know, like you're probably going to get a better spot in Kansas City than you would have without the experience or without the
And they'll all give you a reference if you did the full month, and why not? That doesn't hurt them. And you message every single one. 98% of them will say no, one will say yes. That's all you need. It doesn't matter, right? And you can do that for, like, there's so many amazing bars in the US, and you can go to any of them. Maybe you have family somewhere, you can couch surf for a month. If people know you're leaving after 1 month, they don't mind putting you up for a month. You know what I mean? You just have to make sure that you're definitely fucking gone.
Yes, don't say. Yeah. I think a lot of people out there too do feel stuck and feel like they can't move where they're at. But like America is literally 50 countries that happen to share the same passports and driver's license. Like you can, the amount of travel that you can do and never leave the US is mind-boggling. Like I still haven't been to probably 13 states. Like I just haven't been to Alaska. I haven't been to Hawaii. Like those are pretty far slogs for me, but I've been to a bunch of others, and they're all just different and like.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody do a guest shift in Alaska. Like I want to go. Let's give me an idea. I'm gonna start looking for good bars in Alaska. I'm gonna message them. I'm like, hey, I'll come and do a guest shift free of charge, just so I can say that I've done a guest shift.
Hold me to this, but one of my servers is from Alaska, and he knows of some good places. I'll send you a couple that he recommends.
Dude, 100%. It would be hilarious to be like, I don't think I've ever seen in the last 10, 15 years of my social media side of my degree anyone ever go to Alaska. I would do it for the fuck it, why not?
Yeah, it's so close to Russia too, and
I can't go there. Unfortunately, I'll get drafted straight away. I'm not go there.
So I do have to actually end up going, and I feel terrible. We didn't even get to talk. My wife is Russian. Her sister's in Russia. Like I sympathize with what you were saying. Like there are definitely people that cannot leave certain countries because she's been trying to come here forever, and like she could probably end up coming here, but not her money. Like not with everything that's going on, and like it's a wild ride.
Listen, I'm traveling to the 8th of June. If you want anything, you want to reschedule a second, we could do it. It's not an issue for me.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, getting to meet you, getting to look at some of your stuff, I think that you are fantastic. So I really appreciate the time that you did give me today.
No problem.
Yeah. So
whatever you need.
Will send you that info about Alaska just to see if you can make something happen.
Why not? I've flown over it. I might as well go.
Might as well stop out of the way. Is there anywhere that, for my listeners, somewhere you'd like them to go find out more about you, or where do you usually like people to follow you online?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Cocktailman. But if you're a young listener and a young bartender and you need any sort of training materials, if you're a bar manager, check out the website indiebartender.com. Free of charge, we have training materials from all over the world. Some of the world's best bars have donated their training manuals, like Milk and Honey in London donated a 274-page training manual, the way they train their entire staff. It's all free of charge. It's all for everyone to use. The whole point of my company is to behave like bartender first. So for me, it's not about following me. It's about use my stuff. and get better.
Sure.
And I'll see you at the next Tales of the Cocktail or something.
Right. Yeah, and I just want to throw my 2 cents in. You know, I feel like even with how amazing that sounded, you undersold it. There is a calendar that has events throughout the world that you can go and check out. There's like the social media guides. Like there's a ton on there. So like, thank you for all the things that you've done for the bartending community. It really means
No worries.
It's a lot.
Here to serve. All right. Thank you so much, Andy.
Have a good one.
Take it easy. I'm going to run as well.
Thank you for listening. That is today's episode. Now, if you have not taken a moment to check out our website, please do. It's servesyouRightPod.com. We have past episodes and all sorts of other things there. If you want to get in touch with me, that's the place to do it. I do appreciate that you've given me your most valuable asset, your time and attention. So thank you for listening. And stay tuned. We have some really cool guests coming up. I would hate it if you missed it. Cheers.